Hi guys, this is Eddie coming back at you. In this video I'm going to talk to you about the game MYFAROG, and in particular about one of my characters who is a warrior called Axius. I'll talk about some of his adventures and the importance of staying on your feet, and with that in mind also the cut and shock damage. So I've been playing as Axius for about three or four games now. Each one has been run by Philip Posey. In the first game, myself and a few others we were sent out to investigate the tribe's burial mounds, which had been defiled. And my character actually comes from the Eridori tribe in the land of Agadir. A little bit more about Axius. He is this huge, bulking guy. He is 6'6" tall, 207 pounds. So he gets a +2 to his size, which means it's actually harder to stun him. But it's also a little bit easier to target him with any missile weapon. Um, but I think in the whole, it's actually beneficial to have that size bonus. Um, so in the first session, we eventually we made it to the tribe's burial mine, the tribe's burial mounds, and we came across three outlaws, two of which who were kind of like ranger characters, missile based, and they were led by a this big outlaw character. We eventually got to the location where we were. We slayed the one of the rangers. We slayed the leader of the particular group. One of them fled, and we followed him for a while, uh, just to know where he was fleeing to, which was a this really long wooden bridge, which had apparently been built by Fairlings. And if you're not sure what Fairlings are, it's basically a race which is in some ways similar to elves. It's a race which is kind of dying out in the land of Thule. So it's not very common to come across them. In the second adventure, we went back to the tribe, gathered a few more eager tribesmen to seek out these outlaws. We crossed this rather long wooden bridge, and after another couple of 100 feet, we encountered this saber-toothed tiger, which attacked one of the other warriors. So my character, being a warrior, he was with two other warriors and a ranger who happened to be at the back of the group. The tiger attacked one of my companions and stunned him, which basically means that he loses his turn and he gets a -4 to his DV. Um, I believe he can move, but he just cannot perform in combat as such. So it makes he's just more vulnerable to being attacked again. Um, After that happened, three more saber-toothed tigers appeared from the rear, and they mauled the ranger to death, swiped his head off, and just started feasting upon his corpse. Then they strode forward and went to attack us. One of them missed me, but the other two managed to stun my two companions. So things were looking pretty grim at that stage because saber-toothed tigers, they weigh over 400 pounds and they're quite formidable opponents. Um, so my character, he wasn't afraid. He did his morale check. He was completely fine. He performed a couple of attacks because he actually has the fighter talent, which enables you to make an extra attack in melee. He also has the sword dancer skill, which is used with blades such as long swords, short swords, and that enables you to do up to 5 attacks. Of course, with each attack you get a minus a negative modifier to your OV rolls at your attack value. So if you actually perform 2 attacks on an enemy, with each attack you will get a -2 to roll. Okay, and if you attack them 3 times, then you will get a -4 to each hit. Um, if you attack them 4 times, you get a -6, and if you attack them 5 times in one round, you get a -8. Such really only recommendable if you have an extremely high OV to beginning with, and if you're against particularly low DV opponents. Um, and of course, the more you attack per round, the lower your DV is. So if you attack twice in one round, your DV goes down by you get a -1. If you attack 3 times, you get a -2. If you attack 4 times, you get a -3 to your DV. And if you attack 5 times, you get a -4 to your DV in melee. Well, anyway, my character, he was able to slay a couple of the saber-toothed tigers, and in the next round, he was able to kill another 2. So he performed quite a heroic feat there. Actually thought that the saber-toothed tigers were going to completely wipe out our party, but seems that we had luck on our side. Yeah, that particular session went on a bit longer, up to the point where we located this outlaw fortress. Um, we were basically stationed in some woods, a few hundred feet away from the fortress, and we were being stalked by one of the outlaws, who was targeting us from afar with his longbow. We were unable to locate his position initially. After a few rounds of him firing at us, we were eventually able to track him down. After a few rounds of combat, we managed to slay him, but he was able to blow upon his horn, which alerted the rest of the outlaws in this fortress, who all came rushing out towards us. So we basically just hid amongst the trees, and we were successful enough to not be seen by them, and we made ourselves to the fortress, and that's where the second session ended. In the third session, it was based predominantly in the fortress, and it was quite combat oriented. Um, and in this fortress, there were, I think, 2 levels to the fortress. So you had the ground level, a middle level, and the top section to the fortress, where there was this huge ballista. So we basically stationed ourselves on the top floor of the fortress, on the rooftop, loaded up the ballista. We were able to fire a couple of shots off at the outlaws, who were then retreating towards the fortress. We managed to take out quite a few of their numbers, which was very good, because there was a whole horde of them. There were actually 56 of them, 56 level 10 manhunters. So they were, quite formidable opponents. It got to the stage where we were no longer able to fire the ballista, because they'd got so close to the actual fortress wall and to the gate, which they'd managed to bring down eventually. And the thing which probably saved the 3 of us, in this actually session, I should mention that there were just 3 of us. There were 2 warriors and a ranger. We positioned ourselves in a kind of a strategic location, in which we basically just blocked off the rooftop. So only 1 or 2 of the outlaws were able to attack us in one particular round. So I mean, there were several rounds of combat, we basically started to grind them down, to grind their numbers down. um, but the thing is, I mean, the two of us, the two warriors, we formed a formation which gave us +2 to our morale checks. It also gave us a plus modifier to our defensive value, and that of course depends on on the shield you're using. If you're using a large shield, or I think it's a combination of any shield, you get +1 to your DV. However, if you're using I think it's a dipped shield, if I'm not mistaken. Um, just trying to find the name of it's deeply dished shield. Sorry. If both of the people in the formation, or if there are more of you, of course, if all of you are using deeply dished shields, then you get a +2 to your DV. Um, so basically, having the high ground in that particular scenario kept us alive, um, because we'd found the narrowest spot. Um, if they had swarmed us, meaning which perhaps 12 of them could have attacked us at any in one particular round, then inevitably we would have got stunned. We would have lowered our DV, meaning that the remaining attackers would have had an easier chance to penetrate our defences and uh, and to cause further damage. So basically, what I'm trying to say is in this video is that in MYFAROG, if you're in melee, whether it be 1-on-1, 2-on-2, 2 versus 4, whatever it is, if you get knocked off your feet, then the chances are you're not going to get up again. That's basically because your defense value gets lowered so much, whether it's -4, -8, that it means that your enemy is much likelier to beat your defense and score a better hit. Of course, if they get a 10 over your defensive value, then they will score a perfect hit, which will be 24 damage plus the weapon damage. Um, and if that had happened to my character, for example, he's a level 4 warrior. He has 29 hit points. So imagine if one of the attackers had scored a perfect hit. That's +10 over your DV value. That means they would have got 24 plus their weapon value, which means that they would have only needed to get an extra 5 to kill my character. Now you also have to bear in mind that if your character gets cut, they will also lose HP, and if you're in the middle of a melee, then you're not going to have a chance to heal yourself. It's not like some of the role-playing games where you can just suddenly whip out a healing potion and restore your HP to maximum. In MYFAROG, it doesn't happen. That's another one of the more brutal and gritty aspects which I like about the game. It's if you make it out of the combat alive, then and only then you will have a chance to tend your wounds, and there's also a chance that you will fail, of course, depending on the severity of the cut and the number of particular wounds which you have, the number of cuts. You could have, for example, 3 light wounds and a medium bleeding wound, which is a pretty serious thing. You would have to tend all of those wounds, which would take time, a good enough healing skill, and of course, if you don't have something like bandages, then it's going to make the job quite a bit more difficult. Of course, I mean there are sorcerer characters which are able to heal, but um, in most games which I've played in, there aren't any sorcerers. That's not because people don't like to play them. It's just because I think people are getting more and more used to the system of using spells, favor points, and actually getting the relevant stats and the life stats to be able to use a sorcerer. Of course, depending on your tribe, you might have an easier job than others to be able to roll a sorcerer. So, for example, if you're actually from Agadir, then you have a a 1 in 6 chance of being of the say your life stance, which means that you'll be able to roll a sorcerer. You have a 1 in 5 chance of being of the sorcerer life stance, which means that you are a religious based character. So to sum up this video, in MYFAROG, when you're in combat, don't always think that you have to engage in combat. Chances are that you go in, your character might not make it out alive. So you really have to think about it. You really have to think about what your character can do, what your companions can do, if it's worth engaging, if you can actually form a formation or not, which will give you some kind of a bonus. Can you use the terrain to your advantage? Which I was saying basically earlier in this fortress scenario where we were only we could only be attacked by one or two of the outlaws. If we actually stood back towards the ballista, they would have all rushed up the stairs and overwhelmed us, and eventually they would have just hacked us down to pieces. So that's it. Hope you enjoyed the video, and until the next one.